This just a quick little explanation of those of you, if you're joining from a podcast or a YouTube playback, welcome. Our program is so amazing, and I love these Healthy Together time webinars that we have to just come together as a community. This program, this Optavia program, has changed my life in so many ways. So I'm excited to share a little bit about what I've learned throughout my years with this program and see if it'll help you. I'm sure we all know someone who has been addicted or struggled with food addiction or sugar addiction at some point in their lives, or maybe that's you. Maybe you found yourself saying, like, I'm just a food addict. And that's our topic today is food addiction. Today we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive and look into a food addiction and how you can maybe come to better understand food addiction. And what if you could look at it, instead of having a food addiction, as learning how to take control and deal with addictive foods. So before we go into that, we're going to quickly go over the 4 components of our program that we love so much. And just some of you might know these, some of you might not know what our program is all about, but these are the 4 basic components. Is having support. And that is so key in not only if we're struggling with our health and addiction tendencies, but in general, like having someone there to be a sounding board and have that accountability with. That is huge. And our second component is our Habits of Health system. I'll be referencing that as we go along tonight, but we have amazing education system that helps us rewire our brains and really make that change for long-lasting success. Our community, you're going to get a feel for it tonight. We have an amazing community, and I feel it's one of the best out there. And I've participated in a lot of communities out there, and it's top of the line. Our 4th component is our scientifically designed fuelings that are perfectly portioned, that have all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that our body needs to help us to balance our blood sugar levels so that we can lose weight and feel good and just become optimally healthy without having to do all the meal prepping. So those are the 4 components, and we'll quickly go into the next portion. You can stop share for a minute. And so food addiction, it's quite complex, and its condition is similar to people that have addiction to, like, drugs or alcohol or shopping or gambling. And when you're addicted to something, whether it's food, drugs, it means that your body becomes chemically dependent and requires that certain substance in order to function. So in the case of food, a person that is addicted to food or addicted to the behaviors might have binge eating disorder or consume large amounts of food very quickly to the point where they're feeling sick. This person might feel out of control and have feelings of guilt afterwards. And unfortunately, people aren't struggling with nutritious food addiction. It's the one they're struggled with is just the junk food. So consuming highly palatable foods such as, like, refined sugar, flours, salts, fats, and Dr. A in the Life book, he calls it the white stuff, the processed stuff. And so the processed foods are saturating our grocery stores. They're around every corner, and it's literally at our fingertips everywhere we turn. But having these triggers lights up our pleasure centers of our brain and releases that feel-good chemical, that dopamine hit. And so they've done studies, and it's also in Dr. A's Habits of Health, that these refined sugars and flours light up the brain like cocaine or alcohol. And so your body and brain will start to, like, become adapted to these palatable foods, and your brain adjusts the receptors. So you'll eventually need to consume increasing quantities of these highly palatable foods, and you'll get that same feel-good reaction. But not everyone is addicted to food, and there's some reasons why people are more susceptible to food addiction than others. And that could be genes. There's genetic mutations that put people at higher risk, or our environment, our triggers, our stress, our emotions, our relationships, childhood exposure. What you've been eating as a child can become a habit, and that's hard to break when you have been doing it your whole life. And everyone has to eat, so anyone can develop, a food addiction, overexposure, or using that to cope with stress or hide emotions. That can put you at higher risk. In element 16 on page 322, there's a quiz that you can take, and it tells you how susceptible you are and better understanding the patterns of addiction. So it has you rate whether you are rarely, occasionally, or daily. If you do some of the questions are like hiding your food habits from friends and family, or compulsively consuming harmful foods, or having difficulty controlling how much you eat, or feeling powerless over food. So we all have different levels of susceptibility and how it affects us, and some are more severe than others. And I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. I have addiction tendencies in my family, and I used to label myself as a sugar addict, but I'm trying not to do that anymore. But my sugar addiction tendencies were that I would buy massive amounts of, like, I would go to the grocery store and spend or the gas station, spend like $30, $40 on candy, like gummies, and I would binge and just eat all of it in one sitting, and I would feel so sick, but it was like that drug and I needed it. And so what I love about the 4 components is it's helped me learn how to stop, challenge, and choose when I'm feeling those tendencies. And a lot of times I was just doing it to hide an emotion, and now I'm realizing that more. And so we're going to learn a little more about some tips and tools of what you can do. But going along the lines of going back to labels, I try not to label myself that anymore. And so if you're labeling yourself as like, oh, I'm just addicted to food, or I'm a sugar addict, but in all reality, you just really love food and you like to eat sugar, but you don't have a binge eating disorder, then you're probably not really an addict. And so we need to be careful with the words that we're using. And I think if you're sending that out to the universe, if you're saying, oh, I'm just a food addict, or I'm a sugar addict, then what you tell yourself, you become. And so if you say, oh, I'm just that way, you eventually become it. And it also goes the same for maybe if you really do have a real sugar and a food addiction that's harming yourself and harming your life, I believe you can truly overcome addiction. And a lot of programs out there label you, once an addict, always an addict, but I believe that there's freedom from chains of addiction. And I've seen it happen. And this might be a bold statement. And so I'm just throwing a disclaimer. This is just my opinion. Whether you tell yourself you have a food addiction or not, it's irrelevant. Food addiction is just a word and a belief. And you can change that. And the good news is there's all these tools that our program has and gives you that helps you overcome and face, dealing with addictive foods. So I want to bring on Steph really quick. So Steph Seal, there's a couple Stephs on here. So Stephanie Seal, I want you to come on, and she's going to give you guys some tips and tools, more understanding how you can start rewiring this new story and changing your identity. So Steph, if you want to raise your hand, we can take you off mute.
Yeah, I'm here. Do you have slides, Bonnie, or?
Yes, they're coming up in just
Awesome.
a second.
As she gets that up, I just want to introduce myself. So I'm Steph. Bonnie's my coach. I've always been a super health conscientious person. I love nutrition, moving my body. But before I started Optavia, I was really highly obsessed with food. So it wasn't uncommon for me to lay down at the end of the day and visualize all the food I ate throughout the day in a big pile. And
We lost your audio, Steph.
I felt that I had no choice in my health, especially as I thought about my future health. I felt like I had no choice in where I was going to be, blaming it on my circumstances, what had been taught and modeled for me in my family and my culture. So I lived in this toxic cycle, and I had tried a couple times to break out of it myself without success. So I wanted to get out of this, but I didn't know how. And then I met Bonnie at church, and I started following her on social media and was intrigued by the stuff that she was posting about mindset and health. And so I talked to her about it, and decided to link arms with her. Now she's my coach, and both me and my mom just jumped into Optavia and got on plan. And I was really amazed and I guess surprised at the results, that I lost some stubborn weight, but at the same time, it gave me some space and time to focus on shifting my mindset about food. And so I'm still really working hard to lose the stubborn weight in my mind. It's not gone yet. I'm working on it, and I feel hopeful and that it's possible, that I can get that, and I feel like I can choose. So I want to share some of the things that I've learned. So on the next slide, there's a quote by Dr. A in the life book. He says, "When I say my goal is for you to become the dominant force in your life, I'm being very serious. When you have internal stability and external equilibrium, each day of your life will become all out magical." That's what I want, is just this magical life, where I'm at peace regardless of what life throws at me. And that can seem a little daunting. But it starts with the little things, and it starts with our thoughts. So I want to talk about our thoughts real quick. Um, and researchers have suggest that we have over 6,000 thoughts a day, and most of these thoughts are on autopilot, right? They come in unchosen, unannounced, unintentional, and are a product of our life experience and the stimuli our brain are exposed to on a daily basis, and they're often biased. So bias in our thoughts is a shortcut, an automatic association or tool that our brain uses to make decisions without using lots of time and energy. So this really helps with simple tasks like driving. We don't have to consciously think about it because our brains are biased, right? When we see a red light, we know we should stop. However, it can be detrimental when we're talking about food addiction. When we're have a shortcut in our mind that leads us to automatically reach for those sugary and salty things, that can be detrimental to our health. But luckily, we're not responsible for that first thought, but we are for that second thought that comes in and the action that we take. So on the next slide, we have this awesome tool that I just love, Stop Challenge, that the Habits of Health teaches. And it's about creating some space in our minds to move from that automatic response to having a conscious choice, when it comes to our food choices. So when we stop, when we're in the heat of the moment, we have a food choice. Someone has brought birthday cake or whatever, and you're on plan. We have a choice. We can stop, challenge the thoughts that are going through our heads, and then choose, using our thinking brain, the actions that are consistent with our goals. And like a muscle, it might feel a little awkward the first couple times that you try to do this, but as we practice, it gets easier and easier. So I thought it might be fun to go through some food thoughts that I've had before. So I'm going to throw those up on the next slide, talking about some of my food thoughts. And I want you to think about how you have thought about food and ways that you can challenge that for yourself. Okay, so here are some of my thoughts. Here's the initial: kale is good, cake is bad. All right, next one: I can't eat that, it's not good for me. I ate more than I should have, I'm so bad. I don't know if I can do the 5-in-1 program, I can't do it perfectly. And I've been so good lately with my eating, I deserve something sweet. So those are automatic thoughts that come. Now, here are some thoughts that can challenge those. Food does not have moral weight. Foods vary in nutritional value, but they're not good nor bad. I can eat whatever I want. I choose to eat foods that support my healthy goals. So focusing on what you build is really positive and can help you get places. I felt uncomfortable after eating. I ate while distracted and didn't listen to my body's fullness cues. During my next meal, I can practice mindful eating. I love this one. Take yourself out of it and be an observer. Just see what's happened. Oh, I feel really uncomfortable. Try not to be a judge of yourself. The habit of guilt with food. Bonnie mentioned that we often feel guilt after eating. That's a habit that we've created. So just like that's a habit, we can undo that and create healthier habits. And it helps when you give yourself a lot of grace and try not to judge. Okay, the next thought. I can be successful on the 5-in-1 program. My health is a journey. Each time I slip up, I learn something new. I'm creating new healthy habits one step at a time. And I love that Optavia is not about perfection, it's about progress. And the last one, I feel good about how I'm choosing to take care of my body. Food is my fuel, not a punishment or a reward. So I'm out of time, but I hope that helps kind of get your brain going on the thoughts that you have about food and how you can challenge those. And I just invite you to step out of shaming yourself for your food thoughts. I've been there. It's a miserable place to be, and you don't get very far. So I just encourage you all to really dive into your life book and create the health that you want.
Oh my gosh, Steph, so good. Such great information and tools. And one of the biggest things that I've learned in my journey of overcoming this sugar binge eating disorder that I had was just learning how to win the moment and learning to just win the moment you're in instead of looking at the bigger picture of like, oh, I have to conquer this giant thing hanging over my head. It's just like, what can my next choice be? What's my next best choice? And kind of just sitting with that and learning redirects. So my biggest redirect now is processing emotions, because I felt like all my past and all my trauma was just piling on top of one another and feeling all these emotions from it that I never dealt with. And so I was hiding that and putting a Band-Aid over that with sugar and food. And when I started to learn how to process emotions and really work on feeling that and sitting in my emotions, then I was able to make the next best choice to stop, challenge, and choose. And I just love that this little out of the book, I love the book Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton. She says, it will work. You can create change. It is possible as soon as you stop giving your energy, thoughts, and attention to all the reasons it won't. Instead of arguing for what's in the way or what's hard, commit to relentlessly redirecting your attention to what you are able and willing to do today to create the change you crave. You don't need to take notes. You need to take action. Every choice is a chance. Transformation is now. And so, yeah, just don't get intimidated by the whole bigger picture. I just feel like taking it one step at a time. And I want to bring on another person that's near and dear to my heart, my sweet husband, Yella Siulua. He's going to come on and share kind of his experience with using some of these tools in his story. So Yella, you can come on, raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Addiction is real. That's my big story that everyone should know. Not only with food, like I could sit with a dozen donuts, pound them easily. 8 packs of ramen, gone, super fast. One pizza, from Little Caesars, all by myself. These are the things that I could not control. And not only that, I was struggling with the pornography addiction. And as I started my recovery journey, I would go to 12-step programs, and I would hear people say, "Oh, once an addict, always an addict." And this thing came to my mind. I'm like, man, is this what it really looks like? Once an addict, always an addict. And I'm glad that Stephanie Seal brought up that quote by Dr. A, because he says, you can become the dominant force in your life. And I believe it. Like, when I read those words and when I heard him say, I'm like, man, could I really become the dominant force in my own life? Because I have no control over what I'm doing. As I was learning more about myself and understanding, the one thing that really stood out to me is that I was challenged by Jared to really create, to think about, okay, what do I want to create? But he challenged me, okay, in order to create those things, who do you need to become? And so I dove into the habits of health. Okay, how can I use the fuelings to get into healthy weight management? Am I hydrating? Am I using healthy motion? Do I have healthy sleep? Am I healthy in my mind? And are my surroundings healthy? And a lot of these things were no. And as you guys go through the life book, the cool thing is, like, when I got to element 22, learning about emotions, that's where things started to click. Because I noticed that my emotions, as soon as it got to the lizard brain, as soon as it got to the Labrador brain, that's where I was using food or pornography to cope. And so I had that shift of, oh man, what if I let go of the job that those things are doing for me? In other words, how can I make it to the human brain to stop living in reacting? How can I live in creating? Because I knew, once an addict, always an addict. I'm like, man, is this me? And understanding, like, no, this is just part of me. This is not all of me. I can let go of the job that the pornography is trying to hide. And what is it trying to hide? The emotions that I'm trying to feel. The emotions that I'm trying not to feel from other people. And that's why I loved the habits of health so much. It taught me, okay, I can really become the dominant force in my life. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned to help give that to my kids, right? To manage their emotions. I'm 6.5 years in recovery. And the one thing I'm proud of is that when my son tells me he wants to be like me, I can finally say that I'm proud of that. Thanks, Bon.
I am so proud of him. And I have seen him try to go to the 12-step programs and just try to, and I'm not saying those are bad. And I'm just saying that when he truly found freedom, it was within the habits of health system and the Optavia program. And one thing that I've seen him do, and I've done myself too, is really utilize the 6 habits of health of getting good nutrition in your body, getting good sleep, moving your body, meditating, managing your relationships and managing your emotions. Because if those main resources and those fundamental choices aren't there daily, you're more susceptible to turn to the food and numb out and just be so tired that you can't process your emotions. So I just can't say enough about the habits of health. And the moral of our stories is that we made a choice. We decided that the direction our lives were going in was unacceptable. And so maybe tonight you have that talk with yourself of, you're going to make a choice and decide that you're ready to put in the work. It takes work, but I promise you that it's work worth doing, and it can change your life and give you freedom from those bonds of addiction or negative thinking or unprocessed emotions, anything that you're going through. We have the tools. So don't give up. Maybe if you've tried over and over and it's not working, it doesn't make you a failure. You can keep going. And that's the beauty of this. You have the community of support backing you up. So that is all of our portion for our Healthy Together time tonight. So thank you so much for hopping on. And the next portion of our meeting, you can feel free to stick around. For the next 30 minutes, we just have 2 breakout sessions. Oh, join us next week, sorry. We're gonna be going over stop, challenge, choose next week. We're gonna dive into that a little deeper. So that's gonna help you really solidify that tool. So yeah, for the next 30 minutes, we're gonna have 2 breakout sessions, and many of you are loving the health program and have asked about more information about how to become 500% more likely to reach and maintain a healthy weight long-term. And reaching into your community, bringing others along, improving your finances, all plays a part into our mental well-being and what we're choosing each day. So that's the first breakout, is more information about that. The second breakout is going to be coaching quick start. So we're going to begin that breakout room soon. So if you're a new coach, please join the coaching quick start breakout. There's a little option on your phone you can click and join that. So yeah, so we'll see you. See you next week at 6:30 Mountain if you don't want to stick around, but we're happy to have you.